Josh, Alicia, Josh.
Hi, I'm so excited to finally meet you.
So good. If there's any two people that know the depth of my soul, it's you two. So this could be an interesting chat.
Likewise.
It will be an interesting chat. Okay, Josh, so you're actually driving. Is this a safe place to talk?
I am pretty casual with it, if you're okay with it. I'm just driving like 5-10 minutes to my house.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure you're not we're not going to distract you.
Yeah, we don't want to kill you.
You and I talk all the time driving, like I'm pretty good.
Okay. I reckon we just dive in. We all know what this is about. We're just going to vibe off the last season of the podcast, Masculine and Feminine, and move into the next season. And I think this conversation is like going to be a really good bridge for that. And I wanted to bring both of you two on because I love your minds and I love your hearts and I love your perspectives. And also you both have a way of getting and kind of crawling into some really cool depth and territory that I think would be interesting to explore around these topics in particular. And also because then we have a good mix of polarity in this conversation.
Yeah, I got so many questions for Josh. Like, we need your man help, basically.
So, Josh, from our first conversation back in season 1 of the podcast, where we talked about this and kind of it was the inspiration to dive into the masculine and feminine, Alisha like comes back to it all the time. Like she's like, that conversation with Josh, and she just tells everyone, and it's so great. So there's so much in which we can go off from that chat. But yeah, so Alisha, do you want to start with a question?
Okay.
Let's get nice, deep and juicy.
Oh my God, we've got so many questions. All right. So something that's been, kind of circling around my awareness lately, and Sam and I have been talking about this quite a bit, is an idea that quite often from a woman's side, if we're not getting, buy-in in a relationship with a man, that it must be because of something that we're doing or not doing, or we're too much of something, or we're not enough of something else. And it was actually a conversation with my brother that really kind of flipped that question on its head. And he said, if you're not getting the response that you're after, but you're getting a positive response nonetheless, maybe you need to be thinking about it from the masculine perspective of, if I don't feel that I have enough of X, Y, or Z provide this relationship or situation, then I'm not gonna get deep into it. So firstly, my question is, from a man's perspective, like, is that something that feels like it has weight, or does that resonate for you or for the men that you're working with? And then, like, what the hell are we supposed to do with that? How do we as women help the men in our lives to understand that if we're approaching them, if we're coming towards them, if we're opening ourselves up to them, then it's because we feel like they've got exactly what we need from them, and that it's a safe space for them to be able to step forward in return.
Okay, so it sounds like what you're saying is that if you approach a man and he doesn't respond in the way that you want him to respond, you want to know how I can get him to respond the way I want him to respond.
Yeah, and I think it's not like you're at a bar and you see a guy, like that's maybe a different conversation altogether. It's more like once there's been, something ongoing, some back and forth ongoing in a relationship or a situationship. Maybe it's not a full-blown committed relationship, but there's definitely, it's been going on for a while, and maybe it doesn't feel like it's progressing to the level of commitment and depth that, that we would like it to.
I feel like we just beat around the bush. Could you give me like a life example?
Ooh.
Do you have a life example?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So there's someone that I have been in a back and forth casual relationship with for a couple of years now, and they'll feel like there will be really big steps forward on both sides, but then, there'll also be these big pullbacks at on the other side of things as well. So, a specific example might be that I will declare exactly how I'm feeling and say, okay, when you're actually ready to take a big step towards me, I'm here, like I'm ready for this. And I'll feel like I'm met with the same energy, the same intensity, until I put that line in the sand and say, when you're actually ready to make this be, something a little more deep, then come to me. And when I issue that, it's never an ultimatum. It's literally an offer or an invitation. Then I feel like I get a big withdrawal. You're smiling, so maybe it's not an offer or an invitation.
It's like an ultimatum with a bow on it. It's like,
what's your take on this, Josh? Because this comes up in like, that's just a specific example, but it comes up in so many different ways, even that I've been navigating too, of like, you kind of are more forward than you've ever been, you're feeling like, and I'm aware that you have to be more dramatic with men, right? Be it orgasms or conversations. So it's like, you have to just like let them know that this feels good or this is what you want. So I know this, and I've been doing that too, but then you get that pullback when you do the thing. So what is it?
well, it sounds like it's like you're having a conversation where it's, is that correct?
Wait,
Like,
we
where
lost
are we
you.
at?
We lost you.
Is this like a where are we at sort of conversation?
Yeah, or it's like I feel like we've taken a big step forward. Correct feel on both sides, and if not, why the hell not? What's blocking that or what's stopping that?
I mean, it sounds like this guy's kind of just a bit afraid. Not gonna lie. If you guys have been seeing each other for a couple of years, and he's like, you kind of like, hey, what's going on? And then he's like, oh, and backs away or hides. Like,
Yes.
I know it sounds like it's just a lot of fear.
And that, I guess that's what the question is like, is that a thing?
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think most guys are like super scared and really like just don't understand how to like be in their body or like stand inside their emotions and not react to them. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've really learned. Like, I'm dating a Colombian girl at the moment, and it's just all emotion, and it's like all crazy, and it's so sexy if I can stay inside my like essence. And if I can't, then she just crushes me. And it's like a really good, it's such a great test to like life, you know? And so, yeah, I don't really feel, I mean, sorry to say it, but I don't feel like you're in the wrong at all, or like there's anything magical to figure out. It just sounds like this guy's been a bit of a bitch. And
I think this is like a good place to go deeper into, because it's, you know, Alisha and I have been really exploring putting ourselves in the perspective of coming from them, right? And giving some compassion to men that actually feel afraid and feel fear and come from that place. You know, I think we know that, but I don't think we sit in it enough to give them compassion for the fear that comes up for men, you know? And I think like we've been exploring and trying to look at it from those perspectives and understand it a bit more. And I think that's a valuable thing for a woman who's interested in men, to understand that as much as we feel fear of sending the text message or, you know, or taking it to the next level or expressing some sort of vulnerability within us to a guy, that they also have fears that we maybe sometimes just forget or think that they're like, you know, they don't, you know?
also, like, and I'm going to sound like a dick again, but like, what are you worth? You know, like, I think like it's okay to be compassionate and patient and stuff like that. But if this person isn't willing to open up and go there, like, you should only be compassionate and patient for so long until you're like, hey, I'm actually like a sexy chick with a lot of value to offer. There's a hell of a lot of dudes who are actually going to be willing to step into this with me and not be afraid.
I want this one. I know. And I know that, like, I hear you say that, and I appreciate that. And I know that, but I don't want that. You know what I mean? Like, I want what I see in front of me. I want the connection and the passion and I want all of that.
Guy, with this particular thing. You're like, yeah, like, he's worth it.
Yes.
Okay, great, cool. Just wanted, now we got that clarified. Then we can do a bit of let's go deeper. But, you know, for some other chicks, if you're listening and you're dealing with this sort of stuff, I would also question, like, is it worth it? Is this what I want? You know, because I think it's easy to become, like, sit in our own fear of being like, oh, what if I can't find something else like this? And I think, like, it's really just commonplace for guys and girls to come out of this fear place, which is really just sad, because there's so many other people out there, and there's lots of communities if you do the digging, and it's not fun and comfortable to do the digging and meet a lot of new people, but there's some pretty cool cats out there for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's important. Like, I see that a lot in relationships. You know, you get into a relationship and then all of a sudden you stay in it, even though it's not maybe particularly what you want, but you have this fear that if I lose this relationship, will there be anything else out there for me? So I think it's just like, I think relationships in general are just an invitation constantly to look at what's going on for us, our needs. Are they being met? Are we still feeling alive in this? And if not, can we course correct and look at ways in which we can spice stuff up? Or are we literally just in fear of letting it go and being so in the unknown that we might not experience, it again, which not really the case, but yeah.
Do you want to pretend that I'm the guy?
Ooh. Yes. Wait, no, yes.
Let's pretend that I'm the guy.
I'm so scared of where this is going. Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so is she going to role play to you what she wants, or what is she role playing? She's getting sweaty.
I don't hear.
It's like, what's the scenario that you've been dealing with recently? Or what's the conversation that you would like to have?
Okay, so the conversation is, given the amount of time that things have been developing, it feels like there's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I know that I'm ready to just keep taking steps forward and no more steps back. But I really need to know why you don't feel that you can also dive into it in the same way that I feel like I'm ready to. And is that something?
Are we in an open relationship or like?
Yes. Yep. Open, casual relationship. There's no exclusivity. Never has been. It's always been very.
And just like raunchy sex.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Lots of that.
Okay. Well, where and what would he usually respond?
He would usually respond with, as long as you're in my life, I will. And maybe this is because I'm almost ultimatuming the kind of situation of saying, like, if you don't feel like you can step forward towards me, then I have to question what we're doing. And he'll say to me that he does love me, he does care for me greatly, and he will accept me into his life in whatever form I'm willing to be there, even if that's just a friendship or if this continues as it is. But there is, for some reason, he can't step forward anymore. He doesn't know why. All he knows is he just can't.
And have you like labeled it being like monogamous relationship? Is that what you're after? Is that kind of like?
No, because it's not even the monogamy.
Like, I want to like, let's have a relationship, but I want to be your, I want to be intimately entwined in our lives, not just sexually and in a friendship.
Yes, absolutely. And that it's almost like an energetic thing. I want to know, because there are these periods where we're incredibly invested in each other's lives. Maybe we'll spend a whole month of just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then I'll feel like there's a big energetic pullback. And I just want to know that there's that consistency and that he'll be there no matter what. We also don't live in the same country, which makes it infinitely more challenging. Josh is like, who is this girl?
And also like kind of knowing a little bit more about it, and to give Josh my brutal honesty here, of what I'm hearing is that, do you actually believe that he is not giving you the evidence that he will not be there if you were to say that?
I don't know, because, Sammy and I have talked about this. Every time I feel like I push him, I'm almost looking for confirmation that he won't be there. But he never, ever, ever backs down. Like, he's got me. And every time I push him and challenge him, he'll come back in a way that shows me that he's incredibly supportive. But there's a line. And so if I said to him, I'm going to move to your country and I want to come and live with you and see what this could be, I'm afraid that that's a no. And it's a no without any substance that he's sharing with me. So it's a no because it's a no, but that's all I can tell you right now. And I don't even really know why that's my answer.
Has he said that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's that part that I need to understand. Like, is that really just me going, I'm flogging a dead horse and now it's time, to cut my losses and go? But it doesn't feel like that's what's underneath it. If you can't even articulate what the answer is.
Yeah, it sounds like a complete lack of it's a loss of freedom. Yeah. As like from a masculine perspective, like Bianca and I had this like epic conversation the other day, And it's like, she wanted to move in together, like, you know, in the next like 9 months. And I'm like, let's like not move in together until we get married, pretty much. You know, and she's like, what the hell is wrong with you? And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? And it's like, there's two different, like, I expressed to her, I was like, yeah, babe, like, it's not that I don't want to live with you, because I'm afraid of losing my freedom, you know. And it's not that I don't love her or anything like that. And like, it was good that we had a reference example of, like, I went to Tofino on Vancouver Island over New Year's, and I was meant to go to her friend's birthday. I don't get along with her friend at all. And it was kind of like a repairing, you know, she was like, I really want you to come to repair the relationship and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I will. And then I got the opportunity to go to Tofino, and I was like, babe, like, this is really important to me. I really need, you know, I'm not going to go to your friend's birthday party. She was upset. We argued, and I was like, listen, chick, like, this is a part of who I am and being in nature, and I need to reconnect to, you know, be more present with you and stuff. And she was like crying and upset, and I just held my ground. I was like, look, this is really important. Like, this is what I'm doing. I still love you, etc. And so from her perspective, she's like, oh my God, he's abandoning me and he's breaking a promise. Right? But I was like, when I was out there, when I was by myself, I was walking on the beach with no shoes on, it's freezing cold, and I sent this video, and I felt so much love for her, and I fell more in love with her when I was alone. I didn't fall more in love with her when I was with her. And it's like, that's what actually keeps our relationship so dynamic and alive. And it helped her to understand why I didn't want to move in with her until later. You know what I mean? Because I was like, yeah, like, for me, freedom and connection, it's like, I create connection in nature and when I'm by myself, like, in that, you know, extreme polarity of masculine, and in that full extreme of freedom allows me to come
So
back.
it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And the thing that's coming to mind is then, like, so you know, how do we reconcile the difference between the two? Because as women, we crave that physical connection, we crave the closeness, we crave
more love,
you know,
like more love,
more,
just give me more,
always
right.
more. And if the man is needing less, the masculine needs less and less and less. How do we find the point that allows us to balance it so that everybody's needs are getting met?
Under one roof, if that's what needs to be, like, you know, like, how do we offer that in a relationship or with the guy? Like, how do we offer them the security knowing that they get their freedom, and also feel like we're being seen in our in what we need, which is, you know, often like to be reassured or to be, you know, held or to be like given the attention.
Well, would you rather crave an alpha male and long for him and yearn for him, or be like kind of a little bit bored but have a beta male all the time?
No. Alpha
No, absolutely alpha. But man, at this stage, I'm yearning for the alpha, and they're not fucking coming.
Yeah.
But I think, like, just to go back to your point, Leish, like seems like that's a part of who he is, and it's like the yearning and the longing makes for those moments like so electric and so fun and so exciting. And like, I was like, babe, if you and I move in together, I was like telling B, I was like, if we move in together, like, I'm going to disappear at least once a month and be just gone and off by myself or in the bush or just doing something by myself.
But that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Like, if that's what you need, and
like,
that's what, you know.
They're like, we've been together for like 2 years, and we're talking a year and a half, 2 years down the track. You know, so like 4 years together, I'm like, like, maybe I'll start thinking about moving in with you. You know what I mean? Whereas for a chick, she's like, are you kidding me? What the hell is wrong with you? Like, that's such a long time, you know?
This is a really interesting perspective on Leisha's case as well, you know, like that perhaps that is where he's at. Perhaps that's what he loves, is that electricity and that stuff that you've created with the relationship setup that you have, you know. And then I think perhaps it's just a question of, cool, is that what you're up for now? Or if it's not what you're up for, then is that not the person for you right now?
Is he working on like business and work a lot?
Yeah, very, very purpose driven.
Yeah, like, I think that's like, it sounds like there's a bit of a inability to articulate those two things and be like this is more important than anything else in my life, because it sounds like he really actually does care about you and loves you. And like you said, he's saying, I'm saying no, but I don't know why. You know, and it's like, when it is like, that's what it's like for me. And yeah, Bianca's like really sort of understood. She's like, wow, like, she's like, with guys, and she's articulated this to our friends, and she's like, yeah, it seems like with guys, unless they have their mission and purpose lined up, they will never be able to give you the attention you want. And so it's a necessity of love for a man to be able to be purpose driven, to be able to give attention. Otherwise he can't reach 100% with you, you know? And you'll always be questioning him and always be like, oh, like, why can't he be this, you know? So I think there's always going to be some level of, why can't he be with me all the time? But the opposite of that is like, why can't he just be a man? You
God,
know?
I just want to throw my toys right now. I want to have a tantrum. I want it all. Tantrums. Yeah, but I completely understand that. And you know, you asked the question about, would we rather have an alpha man that we yearn for, or a beta man that's home hanging out on the couch? And it's always the alpha. I'm incredibly attracted to leadership and to purpose and, you know, ambition and men that are driven.
Yeah.
I just maybe, I don't know. I need to find the way that I can genuinely be okay with that level of it and still feel like I can have my feminine core needs met as well.
Yeah, and I think that's also like, you can come now from like this place when you have that conversation and be like, hey, it's okay that, you know, and reassuring, it's okay that your mission and purpose is like priority number one. And that's part of why I love you. And that's why I'm so attracted to you, and be like, I don't want to take that away from you. I just want to feel like this is real, you know? And that way because there's a fear, I think, that comes from like a lot of us being raised by like single mums, or like, like mums who run the show, like alpha mums, is like, we don't want to disappoint our mums. So we don't tell them the truth. You know, we don't tell women the real truth, which a lot of guys struggle with being like, hey, actually, you're probably never going to be the priority in my life. And that is the reality for most men. And like, for them to say that to their girlfriend or wife, it's like, wow, she's going to leave me, or she's going to be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And, you know, attack. And it's like, now that I've had those, like, it's just hard, I think, is what I'm trying to express. And I think if you come at him with love and be like, hey, it's okay that you're that way, that's why I love you, you know, because it is, right? It's like you said, you are always rather the alpha male. Like, acknowledge that in him, and really like acknowledge, like, I love how you work so hard, and it like turns me on, and that's what attracts me to you. I just want to feel connected to you, and I want to know that I'm important in your life as well. You know, and I think expressing that you don't want to take any of that away will really help to bridge the gap.
I love that line that you said about, you know, men don't necessarily feel like they could say to their girlfriend or their wife or partner, you're probably never going to be the priority. My question is, what's the but or the and that can go on the end of that for any men that are listening? If they ever felt like they were brave enough to have that conversation, what's the and or the but that could go on the end of that would also help their feminine partner understand that, no, they may not ever be the number one priority. However, they're still here and committed and in it. And, you know, because I'm sure that there can be both, right?
Really. And I think maybe my like language is a bit, you know, like blunt. I really think if I was to talk, you know, the way I suggested you talk to him, I'd be like, hey baby, like, part of who I am is a man who yearns for freedom and strength and to achieve in my life. And for me to show up 100% for you and to be able to love you fully, I need to express myself in the world first. And it doesn't mean that I love you any less or I put you at a different priority level. It's just a part of my nature. And for me to be the man that turns you on and excites you and that can provide for us, I need to do this for us to have a connection as deep as we do and to love each other forever.
That's amazing.
Right.
Sign me up.
Yeah. I think like, and you know, a big thing that I'm finding and seeing an issue is that like there's not many men that can communicate like that can express that or articulate, whether that's, you know, maybe they haven't actually acknowledged that that's what they need within themselves, but when it comes to actually communicating that way, what's the encouragement that you have for a man to be brave to have that conversation? Because maybe that's what they want to express, but getting to that point of actually doing it, when maybe that's all we need in that moment. But they've, you know, created all the stories around how we're going to express or how we're going to react or whatever it is. Like, how do you navigate that conversation?
I think first it comes to like education. Like, listen to John Wineland and listen to David Data. And until you do those two things, don't have another conversation with a chick. It's like,
I can agree. Like,
you don't know. Like, you're just not coming at it from the same wavelength, and everything you say is going to be distorted. And that sucks. And that's why we don't have the conversations, because we try and say something in a man way. And you're like, wow, I worked so hard on this. And the chick's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And you're like, damn it. Like, fail over and over and over again. And then when you learn about language and, you know, the way that we're different, you're like, oh, that makes so much sense. Okay, now I'm going to try it from this angle. And you can actually experiment with different things. But until then, like, you just, the whys are just so cross.
Yeah, education. Poof. Absolutely.
And it's interesting because that, you know, if those conversations can happen more freely, you know, I don't know about you, Sam, but for me, like, transparency, honesty, that feeling that I can trust the words that are coming out of their mouth, that leads to ultimate surrender in me. That makes me putty in their hand in every possible way. From a trust perspective, sexually, I feel like they have me. If they're honest and transparent, even if they're delivering a hard message, then they have my utmost trust, surrender, and respect.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think another thing on that is, like, honesty is like another conversation that is hard for people, you know. And I remember listening to this in your podcast, Josh, that, like, people that value honesty expect honesty in return and can handle it, right? So, like, all of us here are going to have an honest conversation with each other because that's what we'd expect and that's what we're up for, right? But there's a lot of people that are maybe scared of honesty, or maybe are not. I don't know. I actually don't know the answer to this, but I've just noticed that being, you know, radically honest with people can actually cause them to move in the other direction. I don't know if there's a question in there, but that's just an observation. Maybe it's around honesty. Like, where do we use honesty in a way in which is taken well and not scared away? Maybe that's the question.
Yeah. I think, like, pardon me. I really think that before you go to any of that, like, we can say extreme honesty or, you know, authenticity, or just like showing all of my emotions and whatever, like, I think showing my emotions can be excluded from this content or comment. There always has to be a thought of, like, what's the result that I want from this? And then objectively being like, okay, if this is the result, like, what's the result I want from this? I want to be heard, and I want me and my partner to plan something exciting together. And then work backwards, what is the best way to go about this to get that result? And I think that, you know, sometimes we just, like, as we go into this work of being like, okay, I'm going to share an example. Like, I was like, okay, I just need to show my emotions a bit more. And so I'd just be messy with my emotions. And it's like, that doesn't like, Bianca would receive that in so many different ways. And so instead of treating her as a human being who also wants to be heard, she wants to feel like she's in control, she wants to make decisions herself, etc. Like, I need to look at what my end result is and what's the best way to approach this person in order to get that result. Because what I do is going to cause a result or a reaction in her.
That makes sense. I also think it kind of comes back to safety. And, you know, Sam, you and I have talked about this before, that whenever we feel like we have enough safety, our communication will flow freely and will be incredibly honest, because there is no fear of something being taken away from us or being judged or being made wrong for what our belief is. And so I feel like, Josh, what I'm hearing you kind of say is that maybe there's almost a little bit of shape shifting in terms of the way that the conversation is handled if you're anticipating a certain reaction or outcome. But is there even a need to do that if we feel like there's enough safety in the environment that allows us to speak completely freely and openly and honestly without any fear of judgment?
They're two different things. I feel like one of them, what you just mentioned, is holding space for somebody, and the other is like, I want a particular result. And I'm going to, enter into like a negotiation of sorts with my partner. And this might turn into a need to hold space for somebody, but I feel like they're two different things. You know what I mean? Like holding space is more one person being the observer and one person being observed. A negotiation is two people talking about a particular result and wanting to get something together collectively. And I feel like in a partnership, both are really important.
Whew, this is interesting. I'm gonna what's coming up for me is is now like around the feminine partner being like, this is fresh for me, but being ambitious, right? So context is throughout season 2 of this podcast and recording it, and every time going into such, like, the podcast interviews brought up so much of my own growth. Like, they triggered me into so much of this space of growth that I became so extreme in my feminine that it was a mess, a fucking mess.
Hello.
And I lost, all of I got so repelled by the masculine in myself, and I just wanted to be saved. That's what it felt like. And I lost myself in that. I got scared of ambition, and I created a belief that said, this ambitious part of you won't be loved, so you should remove that. And so I started to lose all discipline. I lost my drive for work. I lost my passion to do the things. Like, I felt kind of in paralysis, and I went into deep healing and into exploring the depths of what it means for me to soften and nurture and be in my emotions and all of that stuff. And only coming out of that, like, in the last, month, and taking back ownership and responsibility and filling that tank again, have I remembered who I was and what I love about, the masculine side of me that is totally ambitious, and I'm an ambitious human, and I always will be. But in that, I become really empowered. And in that, I want to close off my heart to love, and I want to, like, it's like actually so new territory for me to be in this place, but also keeping my heart open and energy open. And I think I fear that to an alpha man, that isn't attractive, or it's not what they want.
I'm pretty much, I've got a friend who's also like a very extreme sort of alpha male dude, and he wouldn't want a partner who doesn't have her own thing going on. Like, he wouldn't want someone who doesn't have their own life and isn't ambitious and, doesn't have her shit together. So that, because what that does is it allows him more freedom in his life. And so that, in a lot of regards, is really attractive, is being a woman who is able to play the polarities. It's like, I've got something going on in my life, and I'm also, able to be that feminine, flowy, girly with you, and just like in our space. I'm the opposite. On the other hand, I just like it to be completely feminine, and like, I don't really care too much about ambition and the drive for success. And I personally find those things don't turn me on, and I don't find them very attractive. So I think, different strokes for different folks.
Yeah. And I think it's been such an exploration for me to find that what I want in relationship is different to how I show up in every other part of my life. Like, I definitely I think I've explored the depth of the feminine, because I see that it brings out what I want and need in a partner, because that makes me melt. It makes me surrender. It makes me go into that feminine flow and giggle and blah, blah. And it's like, and because of a really strong value for me in intimate relationship is passion and desire and intimacy. That's the polarity that I want to create in that. And now the new territory for me is being able to stay in that energy to attract the lover, but not lose myself in business, in career, in health, in life, because, you know, it's like navigating the both. And I think that's where the agility of flipping between both masculine and feminine is a practice for me. And I had to kind of almost be so in my masculine and then drop that and be so in my feminine to explore, though, like have touched them, to then know how to flip in and out. But I think right now I'm learning how to flip in and out because I'm clear on how I want to show up in each area of my life, and they're different.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it comes down to the body, babe. Like, I really think like you can be intellectual, you know, if we're talking about attracting somebody, you could be intellectual and whatever. Like, Bianca's a really smart chick, you know, she's just finished, she's like doing accounting and finance, sort of. And, you know, so it's like very numbers and structure and projections and that sort of stuff. But because she has a Latin background, she's very much in her body. And so there's like this nice mix, and she's able to be who she is in her world. And then when we're together, she can soften, but I don't think her body changes too much. She's still really, really feminine while she can dominate in her masculine. Sorry, she's very feminine in her body while she can be very masculine in her mental arena. And then when we're together, the two just merge.
Josh, have you ever been with someone that kind of maybe plays at the extremes a little more than Bianca does? Like that maybe when they're in their career or their industry, that they're sitting far more on the masculine end of the spectrum, and then in their personal life or in your life together, that you've had to work hard to help them pull back into the feminine space with you? Like, have you ever been in a relationship where that's occurred?
I'd say that's probably was the start of our relationship. And then I just worked on it really hard and noticed how I could pull her out of that. And then it's trust. It's just trust.
But how could you, what kind of things did you do?
Yeah, just like rub her back and just get her to like shut up and like massage her and, you know, just be like, it's okay, just stop talking to her.
So you would literally do things to get her into her body?
Yeah, and just help her breathe and, you know, that sort of stuff. And really just like, I need to, like, we're having this conversation with some friends the other day, and I think like a lot of guys don't, and a lot of people want their partner to be everything. And it's like, I don't really share my trials and tribulations with B. And, you know, I share with her like what's going on in my life, but she is not my confidant. Yeah. I am very much hers, but like my men's group is my confidential space to share and cry and be all these different emotions and stuff. And it's not like we don't have an honest, and we have an amazing relationship, but what it has allowed her to do is trust me completely. It's like she trusts that I am going to be there so much because she rarely sees me weak or crumble. It's not that she doesn't see me vulnerable. She just doesn't, she rarely has seen me weak over the, you know, 2 years that she's been with me, which allows her to just be like, if she wants to be a mess, she can be a freaking mess. And she just knows completely that I'm not going to crumble in front of that. And it's like, I've expressed to you, Sam, like where there was a moment where I did need to cry, you know, and she didn't really know how to hold space for that. And that was okay, you know? And I was like, I explained to her, I was like, yeah, what I really needed was just for you to hear me out and whatever. She was like, oh, I really wish I want to do that for you and blah, blah, blah. But like,
you have other people to hold that space for you.
She's not my mum.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of guys, like their girlfriend turns into their mum, and it's like, she doesn't want to complain. She doesn't want to see me like whining and bitching about my job or whatever. It's like, I've got my shit handled in my life. And so I'm able to create this space and this container where she can be so soft, and she can like be like, baby, I just need to cry, and, you know, or be whoever and however she needs to be. And
I want to pull out something here, because I think the thing that we trust in the masculine is if we're having a moment, right? Like if we're having an emotional response to something that is messy, and she's knowing that you're there holding that and just being like, yeah, cool. Like just cry, just get it all out, just do the thing. Like that builds so much trust and safety within us. But I think what we see and what a lot of people experience in a man or in a masculine figure is that they're scared of the woman's emotions. And so it's a react, like they you know, they're trying to not hang on, just like hold it in, because I don't want to hold everything that you have for us, you know. It's like, and so you get dropped in the moment, or you made to feel like that emotion is wrong, or you should push it back down, or you don't feel. I think that's where we start to break trust. Like we spoke throughout the season on trust in a relationship is really big, and a man wants to feel trusted, but we're not necessarily feeling, it's not necessarily meaning around like, are they going out and cheating on you? It's in these moments, like these little moments of like you staying there as this figure that has, no matter what she's giving you, like it's beautiful and she's loved and you're still going to be there. That's, for me, is a big thing for trust.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's easy if you're a dude listening. Like I screwed this up like 2 weeks ago, and she like came with me to me with a problem and was like crying, and I was like, let's fix this freaking problem, you know? And it's like she got so upset because she was like, you're telling me my emotions are wrong. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm fixing this problem. Like, what the hell are you on about? You know? And it's like, it definitely broke trust in that moment, and she like felt really hurt, and, you know, I had to like rebuild that and whatever. I think it's just, I don't want to graze over what I said. If you're a guy, it's like, you need to be consistent throughout your life in your relationship with your woman. And I think it's a really good practice. And it probably sounds like I'm being too stoic or like not emotionless or whatever. But I think like your partner wants to look up to you and wants to admire you. And if you want to have this amazing, sexy, you know, like really fiery relationship that all these guys want, it's like, you have to be better than average. You can't just be a regular dude. You have to be completely on top of your shit 99% of the time. And some people are like, oh, that work, there's too much hard work, or like, oh, you're beating yourself up too much. It's like, I'm okay to put in the hard work because I want an epic life and I want an epic relationship. And I've really experimented with that over the 2 years. And I'm in such a beautiful, amazing relationship that like the work that I've put in, and like really reevaluating my emotions and whatever, and being like, is this the right place to express this? I'll try it. Maybe not. Maybe this, maybe yes. Like where I'm at with this woman, this beautiful, beautiful woman right now, is so worth it, of me being like, hey, maybe I shouldn't express this emotion right now. It hurts a little bit, but I have somewhere else, a safe space, my men's group, where I can express it. And the amount of trust that's built between the two of us is so amazing, is beautiful.
So there's a lot there. Like when you're talking about your relationship with Bianca, like, you know, you've put years into getting to this point where you can have a relationship of this caliber. And even then, sometimes you still make mistakes. Like you said, when she came to you with that level of emotion and you just wanted to fix the issue for her. So for men that are listening, where can they start? Because you've been putting in the work for a long time, and it's not easy. You have to be consistent, but you have to just start by taking one step. So if there's a man that's out there that wants to have this caliber of relationship where they are strong and dependable, and they can take, you know, the ferocity and the volatility of the energy that comes at them from their woman, what's the first step to becoming that man, to becoming that caliber of man?
Yeah, I think if you're not meditating, you're set up to fail, because then you just never have control over your emotions, and then you're just always going to lose. Like meditation isn't just about having no thoughts. It's being able to observe your thoughts and choose how you respond to them.
Yeah, I
And
love that.
the biggest arguments that come out of our relationships are usually triggers from our parents. And so we react like that, right, to our parents. And it's like, if your partner says something even by accident and you get this whole wave of emotion, you need to be able to be like, okay, like a split second between the thought and the emotional response is so key. And it's a practice. And I think like meditation is absolutely, if you're not doing it, you are setting up to lose. And I think that also like stoicism is a really great, you know, you can go extreme with it and be like, I don't care about anything, but being like, hey, the hard things are what helped me grow. And like me acknowledging that, like I'm always looking for a challenge, and my relationship is going to be the most confronting and the most challenging thing that I ever face in my life, because there's no hiding from it. So I should approach it with as much gusto and commitment as the most challenging job opportunity or the most challenging mountain to climb. And like that takes preparation. You practice at those things, you work after hours. And I think that it can be the most fruitful thing in your life, and you should treat it so. It's an opportunity. It's not a given, and it's a constant opportunity that you need to keep working at.
What do you think is the most important lesson that you've learnt along the path of this journey in respect to how you relate to the women in your life?
Women are driven hugely by emotions in the moment, and something that she might say in the moment might not necessarily be true across the board. And to notice how they act, not what they say. And I think from both a positive and a negative perspective, like say someone's like, oh, you should trust me, and then they do a lot of actions that mean that you shouldn't trust them. It's a good idea to pay attention to what they do versus what they say. Or them saying, hey, this is what I want, and then you do that thing and they don't respond. You're probably beating around the bush, and you need to figure out how they're going to respond in a real sense. And I think that once you get that, it stops being frustrating. You know, as a guy, you're like, what the hell is wrong with you? This makes no sense. But then when you can experiment and play with it with your partner and be like, oh, wow, okay, like that actually worked the way I thought it was going to work, or that didn't work the way I thought it was going to work. And if you treat it like an experiment, then it's just way more fun. And I think the transfer across to life is like, has allowed me to treat more things like experiments and be more fun.
That's cool. I like that a lot. It's funny, Sam, you and I both started smiling at the exact same place, which is when it's like, we say we want one thing, but then we don't respond, or we like.
He was like, listen to he's like, watch the behavior, not the words. It's like, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's true for everything. I think I do that for men too, you know, like I've learned now to not listen to their words and look at their behavior. So I think that we're doing that no matter who we are, like as human beings, we have to be, I think that's what we have to do. I think I was even a prime example in myself last year of the thing that I say that I want wasn't matching the behavior I was doing to get it. So it's like even getting radically honest with myself and checking in on, are my behaviors actually like matching what this thing that I say that I want, you know? And so, yeah, but I just think as women, we typically don't want to fully express because we have this feeling that will be too much, or that where if we say this, will we lose them? Because will we lose love? So I think we hold back from saying the thing that we actually want because of that.
Okay, great. I just think like, yeah, the It's a Guy thing is a resource that all chicks need to read.
Oh yeah. Yep. I agree.
Like from the perspective of like, if you're a guy, you need to listen to John Wineland and David Data. Like every girl needs to read It's a Guy thing so she can talk to her man in a way that gets her what she wants, you know? And it's like the man feels like, wow, I'm respected. I have my freedom. Baby, absolutely. I would love that. Still, I'd love to do that for you. Like, I don't think a lot of women realize how much men want to make them happy. And like, we're just big puppy dogs a lot of the time, you know? And the solutions can be so simple and so easy, but we make them way more complicated than they have to be. Like a good scratch and a treat, I'm ready to roll.
So Josh, yeah, go ahead. What?
I said the treat is usually pussy. And
so I was just going to ask another question, which is, you know, we've been talking a lot in this conversation about kind of almost decoding men a little bit. But what are in the work that you do in the men's circles that you're in, and you know, all of that kind of work, what is the most common thing that comes up from men about what they need to understand about women, or what's the thing that they're most confused about or unsure of that you find is coming up time and time again?
got a bit of a unique perspective on this one. I really think that a lot of guys, they don't know how to make their woman happy, and they will do what they say, not what the woman actually wants, and then the woman is unhappy. Like, let's say, for example, you wanted your guy to, like, you're like, well, I want to move in together. Like, I really love you. I want this commitment. And he's like, yeah, baby, I'm going to leave everything that I'm doing and come live with you and be the beta on the couch. And then they mold themselves to what they hear the woman wants. And she's like, oh my God, he's so gross. And it's like, and then they don't understand. And yeah, I think that's like one of the biggest, like, I don't think it's guys, like, it's kind of guys being confused about women or what women want, but they don't know how the world works. And I think there's just this real disillusion with like the Disney fairy tale versus how the world really works. And like, yeah, like hypergamy really runs a lot of women, you know, like, and it's like, these are biological, like, men struggle with not spreading their seed in as many places as possible. Like, that's one of the biological drivers for us, is to spread our seed as much as possible. And so being in a monogamous relationship, there's like a big commitment of being like, hey, I love this person. You know, this is a choice. This is a conscious choice, like, repetitively. And for women, it's like, okay, like, there's like the social ladder, which means more safety for my children. Right. And so like, if my man gets sick or like, you know, something happens to him or whatever, there needs to be a conscious decision to be like, hey, this is actually someone I love. He hasn't actually fallen from a social hierarchy, and things will get better and we'll be okay as a unit. Like, those are two strong drivers that drive men and women. And I think that, like, as men, we listen to what they say, and then we go and we fall down the social hierarchy, and then the woman biologically is just going to lose interest. And it's like, if you understand that that's how the world works as a man, and being like, okay, actually, a part of me being a good partner is having my shit together and actually drives her attraction to me, I'm going to avoid all of these pitfalls, like 90% of the pitfalls. So I'm very passionate about this topic. I think, like, I get frustrated at guys being chumps. And I think a lot of it is like, you know, we're like, oh, we're in this like new era of like no toxic masculinity. And, you know, like, a lot of guys just, like, I think, need to harden up, not necessarily like have a cup of concrete and, you know, get over your emotions, but like, you need to put in the work, dude. Like, it's not just going to fall in your lap. This magical woman isn't just going to appear, and she might fall in love with you for a year. But if you stop being the man she fell in love with, how can you expect her to stay in love with you?
But I think we've confused, like, you know, I want to take some responsibility on behalf of women as well. We've confused men. We've made it really, really hard for them to understand what it is that we want from them, because we want to be climbing the corporate ladder, but then we also want to be the queen. We want to, you know, there's so much confusion. And I think it's only now that we're really starting to pull it apart and realize just how much damage we've done by making it incredibly hard for men to understand what they are supposed to do and how they are supposed to be within the context of relationships.
Yeah, totally. And I think, like, the reality is, it's like, if you want to climb the corporate ladder and do all those things, like, you're going to shut down parts of your body that are attractive to those particular men that you want. And it's like, that's just the reality. You know, we can fight it logically, but, like, you know, I say a lot of times with like light exposure and things like that, and eating food and getting out in nature, it's like, nature doesn't care what you logically think, you know, or what the conclusion is that you come up in your head. It's like, our bodies react to certain environments, and we respond differently to people in different polarities, you know. And if you want to meet a man as a man, you're going to get treated as a man. You're not going to get treated as a queen. And that might sound very rough and abrasive, but it's the same goes for men. You know, if you want to meet a woman as a woman, she's not going to treat you like a man. Like, sorry, bro.
True. I have a good example of that. A friend of mine was in a long-term relationship for 5 years, and he said that his partner was constantly saying to him, you know, I want to understand you more, and I want to see your vulnerability, and I, you know, all of that kind of stuff. But then when the time came that he actually would share his emotion, she would make him feel wrong for it and tell him that it was highly unattractive and that he just needed to, you know, man up. Like, and so for him, this poor guy is a beautiful, beautiful human. He felt like he never really understood what he was supposed to be. It was like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. So, you know, in that instance, if that was someone that if that was a man that you were providing some counsel to, how would you help someone navigate that kind of situation where the woman is saying that they want to see some vulnerability and honesty and openness, but then when it's given, it's actually not what she wants at all?
Like, I think I really love your question. I'll come back to what I said at the start. It's like, I'm not vulnerable with Bianca. I'm not weak with Bianca. I show my weaknesses. Like, vulnerability by nature is actually weakness. Like, you show a weakness. That's what like, vulnerability is not strength. We call it strength, but if you use proper English language, it's not strength. And I think we need to separate those two things. Vulnerability is actually an expression of weakness. And so I share my life more with Bianca. If I need to go out and be weak or vulnerable, I do it in my men's group. And so my first suggestion for him would be like, hey dude, like, go get a group of guys where you can be this person and you can express the extremes of your emotion and be angry and be sad and like be seen and witnessed, because it is important. It's just, that's not your partner's role in your life.
My perspective on this is the same whether you're a man or you're a woman, and whatever partnership you're in, is that we have this idea that our partner has to tick every single box. And in actual fact, it's going to be a better relationship if you have either a circle of sisterhood or if you have a circle of your brotherhood, and you have different ways in which you express different parts of you and you feel loved and received in those relationships. I think it's about going back to ancient traditions around culture and community. It wasn't just two people where that's where you expressed every part of your intensity and your emotions and your vulnerabilities and your, you know, they became everything. I think that's where we go wrong in so many ways. Like, we put so much pressure on this one human, and that's a fucking lot. I think it's like, when we can say, okay, these are my values in my relationship, but I also need, as a woman, to express the intensity of an emotion that sometimes I can't even handle, let alone a man. So how about I go and have a sisterhood or a mastermind or something like that, where we explore being able to express that. And then I've expressed that in a way that's out of control. And now I can bring that gift and that fullness and that energy into my partnership in ways in which I want to bring it. That's a gift to that. I think that's an extreme example, but I think that's where we're going wrong. I think if people are feeling like that and people are having those experiences, then they're not doing enough of their own work. They're not doing enough of their solo practice. They're not doing their inner stuff to understand what's going on and to be able to hold somebody else in their emotion. That's what
Yeah, 100%. I think like our relationship is a really great example, Sam. It's like, it's a good thought to have when you think of your partner and be like, what role do I want to play in this person's life?
Yeah.
And, you know, the role that I want to play in Bianca's life is a bit of the bad boy, like the guy that she does things that she's never done stuff with anybody else before, the provider, like her sexy boyfriend, like, you know what I mean? Her reliable partner, like all these things. And it's like, how does that person act? You know what I mean? It's not that, and it's like, I've definitely cried with Bianca and I've been held with her. And like, one of the first times I ever did that with a woman was with Sam. And I was like, hey dude, I'm really struggling to get emotion and whatever and cry. And it's like, Sam just held me at a park, like, and I just like cried with her, and I struggled and I just like felt like a child. And it's like that. Sam and I we're not in a relationship together. We don't, you know what I mean? It's a very different relationship. And I think unless you have those places outside where you can go and practice, and then you can bring that back to your partner, you know what I mean? Like, I cried with Sam first and then I cried with Bianca. And it's like, I was able to like sort of practice and get used to it and stuff like that. So I was not out of control, you know, like being out of control sometimes sure is good and healthy, but like, she's also dealing with this for the first time, you know? And yeah, I just think having different places to express that I've been crying in front of men since I was 19.
Yeah.
And it's like I've been doing the work since I was 19. I've only really started doing that with women.
And I think it's so important, and I think it unnumbs us, like especially speaking from my experience and point of view as a woman, is that because I hadn't been expressing that anywhere and had pegged so much on certain relationships, that it had numbed parts of me up, because that person, that poor person who was like trying the best that they could, wasn't handling it. So then I just felt like it wasn't okay. So being able to now be able to express it, be it in sessions or in women's circles, or with like Alisha or with you, or like, you know, whoever, I'm unnumbing these parts of myself and then building a relationship to them that I can bring in intimacy, or, you know, and that's why I think the value of passion and intimacy and desire in an intimate relationship is so important for me, because it brings flavor. Like my emotions that I'm expressing in different areas of my life and with different people now bring flavor into the relationship and make sex life really good, or make intimacy really good. And I think that's where we can express with our partner the stuff that we're wanting to express. It can come through, but in a way that is actually a gift, opposed to this mess that somebody's trying to navigate, and then it's just, you know,
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that also comes down to that, you know, the trust and the honesty and the safety in the way that you communicate. Because if you want to bring that into the bedroom, like that cannot happen unless you have the strong foundation of safety and communication.
Absolutely.
It's critical. And I think that any of the times that I've had the best levels of intimacy on a sexual level, it's always been because I felt like I trust this person and they've got me. And I know that I can bring the full intensity of all of the different variations of myself in the bedroom to them, and know that it will be received and not judged in any way at all.
What do you think on that, Josh, from a man's point of view? You know, having a woman do her own work and then be able to bring flavors to the bedroom.
I think like I think you can only express or reach the parts, let's say, you know, sexually, if you feel confident in yourself, and that comes a lot from the inner work. You know, shameless plug, inner experience with Sam, and it just comes from doing the inner work. I don't think there's any way really around it, you know. And I think if we rely on other people to save us, we never get to the depth of what's really going on.
Yeah.
And like Bianca and I did Breathwave the other night. Such an awesome experience. We were like holding each other and like crying and telling each other we love each other. It's just like messy and just like so close. And I've never felt like that before in my life, you know, with a woman. And yeah, like we breathed by ourselves for like 30 minutes. And it's like, unless we did the breathing for 30 minutes by ourselves, we couldn't have connected like that, you know, for the last 15 minutes. And, you know, she was like, oh, I got so much out of the connection. And, you know, I feel like it was meant to be a solo practice, but I got so much from connecting, etc. And I was able to explain to her, like, yeah, babe, but like when you did the breathing by yourself, it allowed you to get to a place that unlocked the ability to connect to that level, you know. And I shared with her again the Tofino thing. I was like, when I went away to Tofino by myself, it allowed me to be in my own emotions enough to unlock that level of connection. Otherwise, there's just too much in the way, and you can transfer that to emotional connection, to sexual connection. Like, there's just too much in the way. There's too much noise.
Yeah, and I think like to go full circle on that, it's like we can have these amazing deep relationships and connections and understand men better, and men can understand women better and do education. But at the end of the day, you have to be so committed and willing to do your own work, because you can't, I think you can't just bring and dump your shit on the other human in that relationship. I think you have to really take responsibility and ownership for also what's going on for you, so you understand yourself better, so that you can express yourself better, you can express your needs better, you can express yourself in the bedroom, and you can have all of these things unravel. So I think no matter what gender you identify as, we have to be willing to do our inner work.
And I think you said it, like it just needs to become a way of life.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the way of life. Sorry, my audio.
That was so poignant. I know. Wow. I was like, what is it?
What is he going to say?
What's he going to say?
Someone tried to call me. We can cut this out. Like, someone tried to call me, and I was like, "Damn it! It just cut out when I was about to say something really like."
Oh, that's so funny.
You know, but it becomes a part of life, you know. And I think that there needs to be it's not like, oh, I'm doing this to fix my relationship or whatever. It's like, this needs to become like who I am, you know. And it's like, people start off on a health journey to get fit or whatever, and then eating healthy, I hate saying healthy because it should be just normal, is a part of life, you know. And I think we all start with a real intent goal in mind, and then you sort of come to this realization of like, oh wow, like I want to feel like this all the time, or like this is obviously what I should be doing all the time. This is normal, you know. It shouldn't be the work. It should just be normal.
It's just really hard though.
I know it's hard, but we're always changing, you know. Like, I think like we forget, like, the person Josh was a year ago or 2 years ago is not the same person now. It's like, I'm so different, but my thoughts are not the same. And it's like, I've had so much data coming in that like, I definitely want to be choosing what data's coming in.
Yeah. I feel like I'm a different person from 4 weeks ago, let alone
You're
1 year
a
ago.
different person on a single phone call.
I know. And I feel like, you know, I think, you know, as you've been saying it to Leash, like we've both been in some really hard times at the moment, but we have these like waves of roller coaster highs and lows. And every time I'm like so grateful for these experiences, because if it wasn't there, like how boring life would be, you know. It's like if it wasn't hard and if we weren't doing this stuff and we weren't experiencing this stuff and life was just super certain and like we just knew how it was going to roll, like, man, I'd be so bored about that. So I know it's like hard, but it's also what I'm choosing. And I also really love that I'm choosing it.
Totally. Yeah. I wouldn't give this up for the world.
And there's no alternative, you know. If we don't do this, then it's everything just is smaller, right? So if you want to be more expansive and have better relationships and know yourself better and be ultimately more satisfied with the person you are and the life that you live, there's no alternative.
Imagine just sitting on your couch watching Netflix and eating Cheetos.
That's literally my worst nightmare.
Like, that's the alternative.
Waiting to win the lottery.
How boring that'd be.
Oh, so a lot of I feel like the way that I'm navigating each season of the podcast is whatever work I'm feeling is bringing me to my edge. And right now it's sexuality. And so this season that we're about to dive into is all around sexuality. So what about sexuality and that concept and that theme and that topic brings you to your edge?
Like, you want to talk about tips and tricks or what?
No, I'm like going to wrap this up because we've probably been talking for a while, but like, I'm just like, you know, one thing, like what's the one thing in terms of sexuality that brings you to your edge of your practice or that makes you a bit like, ooh, or something that you want to explore?
I mean, like, we get pretty kinky. Is that what you're talking about?
You're really hard because you're like, I'm all about it. Like me, I'm like talking about it on a podcast is freaking me out.
We do, like I said, I think like for me as a like, I think not ejaculating is definitely a high priority for this year. Like, I definitely go in waves. Like, sometimes I won't ejaculate, like I'll ejaculate once a week. And then other times I'm busting like 3 nuts a day and we're just going. Like,
that's great. Busting 3 nuts a day.
So it's like, I'd love to get like deeper in that practice. And it's like really become a thing where it's really sexy right now with Bianca and I. And like, she'll like try and make me come. And then like, if I'm about to lose my edge, she'll be like, just breathe, baby. And she relaxes. So we've kind of created this little game. And so, yeah. And sometimes, yeah, it's super hot. Oh my God. My sex life has been amazing for like 2 years straight. It's so sick. And, God, I love this chick. So. And,
Alisha, what about you?
For me, it's always
done.
He's
done.
still going.
You're still going.
Not done yet.
Not done.
So then it's like, and sometimes it's like she'll try and pull it out of me. You know what I mean? And she'd just be like, no, I want it. And then she like forces, like pretty much just like, it's so hard to escape. It feels so good. And then she's like, it's kind of like a ha, I won. And I'm like, damn it, I lost.
And that would crush you.
It does, it crushes me, but it also feels good. So I'm like, oh, damn it, I lost.
Leash, you're up.
Okay. For me, it's almost taking things to a more spiritual level this time. So I think I've gone through, the journey or the evolution of my sexuality as it just being almost like a function that, a human function that we're supposed to do, to then really discovering the depths of my sexuality. Like I love playing so many different roles. Like I love lots of kink. I love, really deep, like connected sexuality. But then what I'm finding now is it's really about what we term meditations, right, Sam? Which is like meditating and masturbating and almost using that as this way to connect to something that is infinitely bigger than ourselves. And how can that practice and be brought in with a partner? Like, I think for me, that's kind of where the next piece of the journey is going to unfold. So that it's not just about the physical connectedness, but it's about how can we make it something significantly bigger than just the two bodies coming together, but making it a bigger union.
Yeah.
What about you, girlfriend?
All of it, everything. Okay, moving on.
Talking about it.
Talking about it on the podcast, absolutely. Yeah, it makes me like do butterflies in my stomach. But I think for me, it's about recognizing that so much of my things that I'm cracking open to and breaking open in my life, be it finances, be it belief systems, be it relating, is connected to sexuality. And I think I found a lot of growth in exploring the feminine womb wisdom stuff. And now, like, if I'm dropped after an intimate, vulnerable experience, my womb like stabs me, like I feel stabbing pains. And I think it's this connection to my body and to that it's really unraveling, like a lot of wisdom in the way that it speaks to me, in the way that it's navigating me. And it's like, yeah. So I think for me, my edge is really starting to unravel some uncomfortable stuff, bring some light to areas of my life that are kinking my flow to sexuality, that are kinking flow to attracting in love, that are kinking flow to different parts of my life. And it's all seems to be unraveled in my sexuality and my relationship to that myself. So yeah, I think exploring more of that, and the speakers that I'm going to be having on, I think will probably do that on the journey as we go, and hopefully people come along with me. But not everyone, like not like mom and like dad and stuff, like they cannot come along. Yeah. Okay. So we've been talking for so long. Is there anything else that you feel like we could, really bring to this conversation before we wrap it up?
I would love to do another episode and just talk about sex. I feel like that.
Also, the lighting on your face right now is next level.
You look quite Machiavellian, quite evil. I like it.
Yeah, that's a good role play.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we reconvene and talk about sex in a few episodes to come?
I love that. Let's talk about sex.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
Let's get kinky.
Come on.
All right. Come along for the ride. Last thing. The biggest learning from the masculine and feminine work that you've both been in?
Women grow from encouragement and men grow from challenge.
Nice.
I think for me, it's just actually like how far there is yet to go. I just had it's like the more I unravel, the more there is to unravel. And it's been really heartening to see that there are so many other women in the exact same position. So I think the lesson is it's not one session, it's not one podcast or one workshop. Like this, there's long haul stuff here, but it's so valuable if we can dive into it.
Yeah, agreed.
What about you?
I think for me, the biggest learning is that when you decide to go into this work, it creates for so much juiciness, so much aliveness, and so much unnumbing that you can't go back. You know, it's like you just can't go back. Like I'm so enthralled in it that I just want more of it. And it's just makes my practice so exciting. It makes my day-to-day so exciting, like because I just get to practice that, and it's juicy as.
Sick.
Thank you so much for joining me. I love you guys so much.